What makes a footballer truly unbreakable? Is it talent, strength, or something far greater? The kind of willpower that refuses to shatter, even when bones do? Football has seen many warriors, but few stand in the same category as Dave Mackay. He wasn't just a hard man, he was a force of nature, a leader so dominant that his very presence on the pitch could change the outcome of a game. Twice his leg was broken. Twice doctors told him his career was over. But quitting was never an option. Instead, he fought his way back, twice, as if defying football's cruelest fate was just another challenge to overcome. But this story isn't just about resilience. It's about a man who redefined toughness, not through reckless aggression, but through sheer determination and leadership. He didn't just play the game, he dictated it. From the streets of Edinburgh to conquering English football, Mackay's journey was one of grit, triumph, and an unrelenting fight against destiny. His legacy isn't just trophies or records, it's a mentality, a standard of resilience that modern football has all but forgotten. In a game that now glorifies finesse over fight, where does Mackay's legacy stand? How did a boy from Scotland rise to become one of football's greatest warriors? And why does his story still stand as the ultimate lesson in courage? For those who appreciate football's greatest untold stories, the ones that define what true greatness means, subscribe now. Because legends like Dave Mackay deserve to be remembered forever. And their stories, they're just getting started. Edinburgh, Scotland, where football wasn't just a game, it was a way out. The streets were rough, winters were unforgiving, and only the toughest thrived. For Dave Mackay, football wasn't a pastime, it was survival. Born into a working-class family, he grew up with a ball at his feet and a fire in his heart. His hunger to win wasn't just about passion, it was about proving himself, about rising above the hardships that defined his early years. At Heart of Midlothian, Mackay wasn't just another talented youngster. He was a revolution in motion. He played the game like no one else, blending the finesse of a playmaker with the grit of a warrior. His ability to control the midfield, win tackles, and drive his team forward made him unstoppable. And it wasn't long before he turned Hearts into a force to be reckoned with. Under his leadership, the club secured the Scottish League title, 2 Scottish Cups, and 4 Scottish League Cups. A golden era that would forever be linked to his name. But Scotland wasn't enough. The wider footballing world had taken notice. Bill Nicholson, manager of Tottenham Hotspur, saw something in Mackay that few players possessed. A presence, a mentality, a leadership that could transform an entire team. Spurs weren't just buying a player, they were securing a force of nature. In 1959, for a then substantial £32,000 fee, Mackay made the move to London. England awaited. The challenges would be greater, the battles tougher, but Mackay was ready. He wasn't just stepping onto a bigger stage, he was about to dominate it. But even he couldn't have predicted how fate would test him in ways few had ever endured. London, 1959. Bill Nicholson knew he wasn't just signing a footballer, he was bringing in a leader, a warrior who could reshape Tottenham Hotspur. £32,000 was a hefty price at the time, but Nicholson saw beyond the numbers. He saw a player who could elevate Spurs to greatness, and he was right. Mackay didn't just join Tottenham, he transformed them. His leadership turned an already talented squad into England's most dominant force. His first full season at the club set the tone. Tough in the tackle, smart in possession, and relentless in his drive, he was the heartbeat of a team on the verge of history. Then came the season that changed everything. 1961, a campaign that would forever be etched in football folklore. Tottenham didn't just win, they dominated. The first team in the 20th century to win the league and FA Cup double, playing a brand of football that set a new standard. In midfield, Mackay was the driving force, the enforcer, the leader, the man who ensured Spurs never took a step back. His presence alone was enough to intimidate opponents. Teammates relied on him. Rivals feared him. Nicholson trusted him. As Danny Blanchflower, his legendary teammate, once said, Mackay was the one player you wanted beside you in battle. More silverware followed. The FA Cup in 1962, the European Cup Winners' Cup in 1963, the trophies stacked up, and Mackay's reputation soared. He wasn't just a key player, he was the very foundation of Tottenham's golden era. But football has a cruel way of testing even its greatest warriors. Just as Mackay reached his peak, fate intervened. November 1963, one moment that threatened to end it all. November 1963, Old Trafford. A routine challenge turned into a career-defining nightmare. Noel Cantwell's tackle was firm but fair, yet as Dave Mackay hit the ground, something was wrong. His left leg had shattered, a double fracture of the tibia and fibula. Football stood still. Spurs fans watched in horror. Teammates feared the worst. Even Mackay, a man who never showed pain, had to be carried off. The diagnosis was brutal, a career-threatening injury. Doctors warned that returning to top-level football might be impossible, but Mackay had never accepted limitations. He didn't just want to recover, he wanted to come back stronger. Months of agonizing rehab followed. 9 months of grueling work. 9 months of refusing to let his body dictate his future. Then, against all odds, in 1964, he returned to the pitch. A miracle comeback. Then, fate struck again. Just weeks into his return, another reckless challenge. Same leg, another break. 2 leg fractures in a year. The kind of injury that ended careers, shattered confidence, and forced legends into retirement. But Mackay was different. He wasn't built to break. While others would have walked away, he saw it as another battle to win. The doctors doubted him. The press wrote him off. The football world believed his story was over. But for Mackay, it was just another challenge. Every tackle, every sprint, every moment of training was a fight against doubt. His body had been broken twice, but his spirit, unshaken. He wasn't just coming back. He was proving that football couldn't destroy him. The warrior wasn't finished. And soon the world would see that even after 2 devastating injuries, Dave Mackay was still the toughest man in football. Football had written him off. 2 leg breaks, back-to-back, the kind of injuries that ended careers, crushed confidence, and forced legends into early retirement. But Dave Mackay wasn't like other men. By 1965, he returned, not just to play, but to dominate. Where most would have feared every tackle, Mackay threw himself into challenges with even more ferocity. His presence alone sent fear through opponents. Spurs fans, who had once feared his career was over, now watched in awe. And in 1967, he delivered Tottenham their 3rd FA Cup, proving that no injury could stop him from leading his team to victory. It wasn't just a trophy, it was a symbol of defiance, a message to the world. I am still here, but one moment, one image, would define his legacy forever. 1968, Tottenham versus Leeds. Billy Bremner, one of the game's toughest midfielders, tried his usual tricks. Aggression, intimidation. Mackay had none of it. He grabbed Bremner by the shirt and lifted him off the ground with a glare that could shatter stone. The message was clear. I've broken my leg twice. I've suffered worse than you can imagine. Do you really think you can intimidate me? That photo became legendary, the embodiment of Mackay's indomitable spirit, a footballer who refused to break, a warrior who turned pain into power. And as his playing career neared its twilight, he took on a new challenge, Derby County. Under Brian Clough, he wasn't just a player, he became the leader who would inspire a club on the rise. His experience, his fire, and his refusal to accept defeat helped shape a team that would soon conquer English football. Even as a manager, his warrior spirit never faded. Mackay wasn't just a footballer, he was an unstoppable force. But what truly made him one of the toughest men to ever play the game? That answer lies in his legacy. What defines a football legend? Trophies, talent, or the ability to defy the impossible? Dave Mackay's story is proof that greatness isn't measured by silverware alone, but by the will to rise when fate knocks you down. He wasn't the flashiest player. He wasn't the most celebrated by the media. But those who played alongside him, those who fought against him, all say the same thing. Mackay was the backbone of every team he led, a leader whose very presence commanded respect, a warrior who turned pain into power. At Spurs, he didn't just win titles, he set the standard for what it meant to wear the shirt. At Derby, he became the foundation of Brian Clough's revolution, guiding them towards a future of dominance. And even as a manager, His relentless spirit never faded. But his greatest legacy? It isn't just the trophies, it's the mentality. The idea that football isn't just about skill, it's about character. In an era where players roll on the ground after a soft tackle, Mackay's story feels like a forgotten relic, a reminder of what real resilience looks like. The modern game has produced icons, but can football ever produce another Dave Mackay? Someone who embodies the spirit of an unbreakable warrior? Someone who refuses to surrender, even when the game tries to break them? His story isn't just history, it's a lesson in courage, leadership, and what it truly means to fight for every inch on the pitch. And for those who love the untold stories of football's greatest warriors, this is just the beginning. Subscribe now, because legends like Mackay deserve to be remembered forever.